I'm sure you've asked this question at some point in time. You've looked at Backstage, Actors Access, and other online job sites only to become discouraged and frustrated at the prospects for gainful employment. If you have an agent and they are not sending you out on auditions, then you might be asking yourself, now what? Although there are no magic answers to help you, I think it's a good idea to perhaps add some insight regarding the frustration you're feeling when asking, where are the acting jobs? I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and this is Casting Actors Cast.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors from a casting director. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello. And welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York. I hope you're having a good day. Welcome. This is the Podio, the podcast videos for actors from a casting director. And I am here to answer your questions and to be as much help as I possibly can to demystify those areas of the acting profession that you might find invariably frustrating, like today's topic. Before we get to today's topic, I get to say thank you for tuning in. This is Casting Actors Cast. I want to give my shout out to my friends at actorsconnection.com/New York. Actors Connection is online right now. Every class that they're doing and holding is virtual. And there's all kinds of free stuff. There's all kinds of programs with professionals currently working in the industry. So I invite you to check out actorsconnection.com/New York. Let's get to the subject at hand, but I just wanted to give one more kind of disclaimer out there. Please do yourself a favor and check out the website, castingactorscast.com. There you're going to find some past episodes of Casting Actors Cast. You could go to the YouTube channel, for example, Casting Actors Cast. There you can find all of the past videos, the podios that we have been recording. I simulcast these podcasts live. I record them and then I put them on YouTube as well, so you can get a chance to see what I look like, if that's of any interest to you. Also on the website, though, is a place that says dive into the talent pool. And if you do that, it opens up a whole menu of some free things. One is a free book on doing voiceover works. It's called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. Also, there is a free video, Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. But I'm going to tell you in this free 20-minute video. I ask for your name and your email address, and jump into the talent pool simply means that you're one of the hundreds and hundreds of folks that have decided to just stay connected by looking at the videos, looking at the free stuff, checking out the website. That's it. On occasion, I might send out an announcement about a new podcast or something like that, but I don't spam you. I don't abuse the privilege of your email address. So keep that in mind as well. Finally, if you like what you hear, it really means everything to me, and it kind of stimulates me to want to continue to do this. If you would leave a review, a like, you could share it with your friends, anything that you can do to help promote yours truly and this podcast, that keeps me going, and I appreciate the thousands of you that have done so, so it means everything to me. All right, now I'm ready to jump into the subject at hand, shall we? The subject at hand? What? I keep on saying that, and I think it's kind of a weird phrase. But here are some things to consider when you ask yourself about, where are all the acting jobs? How do I get a job? What am I supposed to do? Because I'm not seeing a lot of things out there for me. All right, so here are a few things I would like you to consider first. The truth is, there is work going on right now. So it's not that there isn't stuff going on out there. The issue at hand is, where do you find out about these jobs, right? Am I right about that? So here are some suggestions to find out about, okay, what's going on out there. So some of these you might know already, but then there are some of these that you may go, gosh, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. But just rest assured that checking one resource is much less effective than exploring many, many avenues that might be out there. Another thing to consider is the word of mouth. It still is a great tool to use. For example, just simply talking to fellow students. If you're in an acting class together, or a scene study class, or an acting for the camera class, just having communication with other actors, sort of kind of figuring out what's going on out there. Word of mouth still continues to be extremely useful for actors, so please don't dismiss or discount that word of mouth. You can also hear from casting directors, teachers that might be involved in a project, talking to you about what's taking place. I think it's also just a matter of raising your awareness, keeping your ears open to those opportunities, because you'll find that when you are very aware of looking for those kinds of jobs that are going to be right for you, if you've got clean ears, baby, then you will definitely hear more opportunities coming your way. I promise you. Here's the other thing I'd like you to consider. I think you should make job searching part of the job description of an actor. You see what I'm saying? Looking for work is part of the job of being an actor. And so putting it and reframing it in that way makes it much more of an appropriate discipline, I think, for you to consistently be on the lookout for those jobs that are out there. So simply just changing your attitude about it. I remember as an actor, I used to go out and get Backstage when it was just a newspaper, and I would call it my 75 cents worth of anxiety. I just kind of approach it in such a negative way, because I'd go through and then I would circle, and whether it was standing in EPA lines or whether it was sending out a picture to an anonymous person and never hearing anything back. And now, of course, people are sending out reels to each other. So that's sort of the same thing. But if I were to reframe that, and I did do this eventually, as just simply part of my job is to look for a job, then it seemed as if the emotional component and the stress of that dissipated just a little bit. So that's something that I recommend. Here's another thought. I think it's important to simply be consistent and be constant with the process. So carve out regular time in your day, in your week, in your month, however you want to do that. But I think being constant and consistent is really going to be an education in a good way. First, you're going to be starting to see the similar names of casting directors, or if you're into theater, the same theater directors or production companies. All of that information is stuff that you will start to process, and you're going to start getting more comfortable and more familiar with it. So make sure that you're being consistent in your search and constant. Make it a regular part of your day. I would also want to put this cautionary tale out there. Please be leery of what I call pay-for-play job sites or job bulletin boards. If anyone is asking you for money to get information about jobs that are going on out there, I would be extremely cautious about that. There are some sites that give you some teaser job opportunities kinds of things, but if you pay for the exclusive blah, 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 you're going to get a lot more. I'm just not a fan of that. I do not think that talent should have to pay any money in order to get themselves in consideration for work. So be very, very careful about that. Now, having said that, I know that there are some sites that do actually have legitimate jobs that are going on frequently. And you know, Backstage and Actors Access, I mentioned that, but there's one also called Mandy, MANDY.com, that's worthwhile taking a look at. Again, I wouldn't pay anything for it, but I would kind of just check it out. You can at least get a sense of what's taking place, where it's taking place, and that might also help you pursue the way in which you can do more research and figure it out. Figure out who's involved, who's casting, who the director is. In other words, information is power. And so that's another way, an avenue, is to stay leery of paid sites, but do make yourself available to those other sites that still provide some kind of useful information for you. Now, here are some things that you might not have thought of. These are things that actors seem to be surprised sometimes when I bring it up. Whether you're a union member or not, whether you're a member of SAG-AFTRA or Actors Equity Association, it doesn't matter. But guess what? Unions have job postings on their websites. SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity, there is an employment area on each of those sites. So explore that. They will post EPAs. They're going to post production companies that might be looking for talent in film and television. Many of the unions, after all, understand that unions have a responsibility for trying to help their membership. So you can find out about some of those jobs through Actors Equity Association. Here's another thought. If you are in an area where there might be a professional theater, a regional theater. Maybe it's not really that close, but maybe it's a place that you've always wanted to work. Making direct contact with that theater, or just simply checking out their postings on their websites. Many theaters post their entire seasons, and guess what? They've not casted it yet. They haven't found the actors for those projects yet. So if you go to that particular regional theater's website, you might get a chance to make a submission, but you also might get a chance to take a look at their season and see if there's something right for you. In that way, at least making contact with those theaters directly, you'll be given information on how the process with that particular theater works when looking for talent. So something to consider. Another one that I think is really interesting and it surprises so many people as well, and that is, especially in these middle-sized and large metropolitan areas, usually the mayor's office has a division for film and television production. They do. Of course, there's New York, but Atlanta, Chicago, Los Angeles. The mayor's office has to grant permission for television shows to shoot on location in their respective cities. So why not take a look at what is shooting in your town, in your area, in your region? So sometimes you can go to the mayor's office. Sometimes you can go to the state office for film and television. Many states are offering tax incentives for film production companies to work in their state. And many times they're going to list those productions that are out there. So making it a little bit of a research project for yourself is kind of cool. If you make it fun and make a game out of it, you might get some insight into some projects that are going on that you might not otherwise have known about. Now, for those of you who have representation with an agent or a manager, I would suggest you simply reconnecting with your rep, or I know this is going to be very controversial for me to say this, but if you know about a job, let's say you know that something's going to be shooting in your area or that there's a theater project, there is a way I have heard, and I think it's worth kind of thinking about at least. But why not approach an agent who you might have had a class from or somebody that you might have met? Contacting them and inquire about whether they would be willing to submit you for this particular project, for this particular character, for this particular project. You know what? You suddenly can be freelancing with an agent. Some agents will go, well, you know what? Sure, I remember meeting you. Send me your resume and I'll see. You know what? It doesn't hurt. It might actually open the door up to a prospective representative. Now, proceed with caution, please. Please don't say Jeff Dreisbach of Casting Actors Cast said I could. I'm not asking you to do that, but I am suggesting that perhaps you could inquire to somebody that you've already made some kind of contact with and ask them if they would be willing to submit you. That would be only for a specific project that you feel very strongly you could be and should be considered. Okay? All right. Now, you should also know, and this might be a surprise, but many times casting directors don't publish what they're working on currently. Not every film that we are working on at McCorkle Casting, by the way, is posted on Actors Access or Backstage. Reason being, well, sometimes we need to get the kind of talent or the caliber of talent that is already very well established. So there's no real need for us to go out there and promote that we're looking for actors for specific roles. Now, many times we do, many times we don't. So understand that casting directors might be working on many more projects than they are showing on either Actors Access or on Backstage.com. However, they're very eager. I'm saying casting directors are very eager to post the film projects that they might be working on IMDb. Internet Movie Database is very useful for research. If you have specific casting directors in mind, you can simply do a search on that casting director and you can see what projects they might be working on. You can actually see the projects that are currently in production. Now, I'm not suggesting that you pay money for IMDb Pro, although I will say there are some distinct advantages if you become a pro member. I honestly can't tell you off the top of my head how much that is to be an IMDb Pro member, but I can tell you the agents' names and contact information, much more how to get a hold of a certain celebrity, for example, or whatever. There's just a lot more information. The star meter, for example, who's really hot, who's really popular. That's additional information that you may not really need right now. But as far as using IMDb for research and finding out what are the casting directors that you know about or that you've met or that you've worked with, what are they working on? IMDb can be very, very helpful. So here's what I think works for you to find work. These are the things that I would suggest you just simply keep in mind. Maybe you could think of this as a checklist, perhaps, in order to help you really fine-tune and remove that frustration and start moving into a place where there is momentum. One is consistency, and I mentioned that before. Just simply being consistent, having a structure as far as your job search is concerned, whether you have an Excel spreadsheet, whether you simply pen to paper and you write out these things, you put it in your diary, but having a structured place for you to keep track of the job search that you are under is really, really helpful. You'll find it focuses you and puts the energy, I know this is going to sound really weird, but it puts energy into the ether that comes back tenfold if you just simply commit. So being consistent. Here's the other one, research. I think, like I mentioned, Internet Movie Database, IMDb, there's all kinds of stuff happening in the business itself. So the Hollywood Reporter, Backstage, you're going to find that there are all kinds of agent movement, for example. Agents are disbanding, regrouping. There are new agencies opening all the time. So reading all of those articles, theaterworld.com, all of those places that you can do good old-fashioned article reading and research, keeping your eyes and ears open to what's happening will really help you feel more empowered, I think. Also, casting resources that are out there. The ones that we've already talked about are there. And so if you are familiar what shows are being cast in your area, and who is the casting director of Law and Order SVU? Hello? So just simply doing it in a methodical way and understanding where those casting resources are looking for talent, and then make that a target for your job search. Also, out there, you'll find all kinds of announcements taking place. I don't want to dismiss that. What I call the show and tell announcements, whether it's for new readings or whether it's for student films. It's a matter of just simply deciding that you're going to look for opportunities and doing it in a professional way. Staying professional is the optimum phrase. That you are the talent, You're looking for opportunities. You're looking for work. How do you go about it? Those are the steps that I think I would take. One technique I think that works for many actors I know is to keep the business part of being an actor separate from the creative being you are. That separation is very, very healthy, I think. Business is essential and important, but if you attach too much emotion to the process of finding work, I think you're going to find that you will exhaust yourself and you'll be very, very discouraged. Constancy, finding new ways to discover acting gigs can actually be a positive, and it can be fruitful if you are open to it and open to those opportunities. I know, it sounds cliche, but forward movement will always create the right kind of waves. You won't be afraid of storms if you know how to sail your ship. Okay. The metaphor is over. And so is this podcast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and this is Casting Actors Cast. Oh, I need coffee.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.